So a very good morning, everyone, to those of you who are live here, as live as we can be on Zoom. And for those of you joining us later on YouTube, then good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the first of 4 sessions on this topic, dying as best one can. And so we have this today, 1 session, and then next week, then a break for a week, and then 2 more Saturdays after that. So I think best thing to do, we have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of things to say and share with you. So we start, as we usually do, with our bodhicitta, motivation. Now, I'm sure not everyone, either here now or watching this on YouTube, not everyone is a committed Buddhist. I think the way this course is advertised is if you're not Buddhist or if you're not Mahayana Buddhist, there may be something that's helpful for you in here anyway. Or if you're from another faith, then you may be able to adapt, tweak these teachings in a way that works for you. Just now, half an hour down the road, we have the Pope in Marseille, and he's got, how many people? He's got 50,000 people in a football stadium. So I think a lot of this advice could be well adapted for a Christian person or for somebody with whatever their belief is. But the way, of course, that I'll run it is from a Buddhist point of view, and in the context where these teachings come from. They come from Atisha, one of the major influences on Tibetan Buddhism, probably equal to the famous Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, who first really established Buddhism firmly in Tibet. But Atisha is very, very important in my own tradition, Kagyu traditions, all of them, and also very important for the Gelugpa tradition. And what he brought to Tibet, what he re-established there were the Bodhisattva teachings. So his lineage is very powerful. His blessing through time, like many teachers, like Milarepa and so on, like the Buddha, is very powerful. And so I'm very pleased to present these teachings that I received in a living lineage to you. So we'll start with the spirit of the Bodhisattva. We turn our hearts in as much loving care as we can manage. Really, we stop, we try, we remember the times when our hearts were open, our minds were open, when we felt very blessed, when we felt very much part of everybody and everything, and we were inspired to feel a sense of service, far, far from the ups and downs of ego and personal story, a life and many, many future lives of serving all of those in confusion, in suffering, in what we call samsara. So I'll start with some our usual starting prayers. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on, until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality to be able to truly help sentient beings so lost in samsara. May each and every being be well, live long, be healthy, be well provided for, have good friends, find respect, and live in places of peace and plenty. Most of all, may they turn their hearts to Dharma. May they create the causes for all those good things to be their wealth in future lives. May they be free from suffering and from creating causes of future suffering. And may they discover the natural, sacred well-being that's totally beyond suffering. May they attain great equanimity, free of closeness or distance from anyone. Deyata shamme shamavate shammeta shatra Om kurimara jite karota ke orite jovate olayane Vishuddha nimale malapanaye kukure kaka grase Grasanao mukhi paramukhiya mukhi shammedavani Sawagraha bandhanane nigrehetva Savabhava pravadina Vimukta marapasha savitva buddha mudra Anudgatita savamare butsarita Parishuddhe bhigashantu savamara kama. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. So thank you. And just in general, before we go step by step through the details of this training, then a few words about it. It's based on, of course, on Atisha's 7.9 training. And it's a course that I presented live in various Dharma centers. It seems to be very, very helpful. Not, of course, helpful for dying, I hope, that's what it's all about, but it's also helpful for living, because the things we need to do to make dying as best as it can be, that's the whole idea. I don't think it's ever going to be terrific, but we make it as best as it can be, are the same things we need to do to make life as best as it can be. It's about letting go and moving more towards an integration with the true nature of being, of ourselves. So I'm presenting Buddhist training. What I'm not, what I can't say I regret not having, but what I'm not is somebody with a lot of experience. I'm not somebody who has accompanied hundreds of people as they've died. I'm not, and I know some of the people who've signed up for the course, you're in the medical profession, you've seen a lot of death, you've been there, you've been present with people. Some of you are in the caring professions, where you see people in the last chapter of their life and what happens and when eventually they die. So that is wonderful to have that experience. So I'm not speaking from that point of view. I've seen a few people die. I've seen quite a few more dead bodies, one way or another, but certainly I've not been by people's side applying these teachings. So don't want to apologize for that, but I want to make it clear that I'm teaching theory. That's what I do. I teach the theory, and then it's up to you to put it into practice. Some very general things, they're obvious, but they need to be said. Death's inevitable. That's the first one. Of course, you know it up here, but the rest of you doesn't know it. And we don't live as though that is the case. So part of this training that's good for life as well as good for the time of death itself, and very, very common in Buddhist training, is to understand impermanence, and especially impermanence as our own mortality. To be very clear, we're each going to die. You're not going to be the first immortal on this planet. I'd put good money on that. And I think the odds would be very high. If you went to a bookmaker and said, do you think that any one of you is going to be the first immortal? And Gampopa says, if you hear about immortals, doubt it. Don't be taken in. So we're all going to die. It's very, very normal. It's also very normal, unfortunately, that we don't know when we're going to die, and that people die at all ages. Some die in the womb, some die in childbirth, some die so young, it's such a loss, and so on. Nobody knows. I remember Gelom Tupten, one of our community, very good friend, he said he went with Akon Rinpoche once to a hospice, I think it was. And, he wanted the blessing and him to give words of advice. And he said, I wanted to disappear when I heard his first words, because they put him in a seat and everyone's listening. And the first thing he said is, you are very, very fortunate. And he thought, well, no, what's he going to say? What's he going to say next? And it wasn't kind of comforting words. And he said, you know you're going to die. And you know you're going to die very soon. So you can very clear-mindedly prepare for it. Most people don't want to know. We have this block. It's not just that it's much less now, but it used to be a sort of a taboo topic. Much less now. There's a lot more talk about death and dying. But in ourselves, and this is the main problem, there's something that doesn't want to deal with it. So anyway, it's a very simple statement, but it's a huge journey to be very clear. Having been quite close to death 1 or 2 times, and when you go, like when I got first news of my cancer, and now a few months ago, second news of my cancer that come back, all of a sudden you realize that even as a Buddhist teacher, going blathering on about this in so many courses over 40 years, more than 40 years now, still the Buddhist teacher is like, well, I'm going to die. And they tell you sort of roughly, if you're lucky, how many years you got or how many months you got. It's a kind of a shock. And as a Buddhist teacher, you're processing it, you're doing all the right things, thinking all the right things, but somewhere in your guts, there's kind of, couldn't you have said something else? But of course not. So it's vital that we take that fact on board. Now, here, this course is about dying, but lots of teachings I see around about dying and Buddhist methods for dying, they seem to focus on kind of, what can you say, the last days, the last hours, the time of death, when it really is, there's like going out through the door, the exit, actually going out. This course isn't just about that. When we come to maybe the third session, fourth session, in the last two sessions, then we're looking very specifically at the changes of consciousness that happen around dying and then death itself, and then after death. Some of you have come across the Tibetan Book of the Dead about the in-between life experiences. It's one version of it. You need to know that. One text, one Guru Rinpoche text that got very popular and developed into 13 major transmissions in Tibet. So all Tibetans take that version as a template. When you really look into the teachings on it and you receive the transmission that goes with it, the actual vision of what happens between lives is much broader than what's written in the words of that text. But anyway, some of you may be familiar with that. And then I remember in the early years of Samiling, when Kalu Rinpoche first came, previous Kalu Rinpoche, in the 70s, and then he taught the Poa practice, which is a very powerful, it's called ejection of consciousness at the time of death. So the idea is, if you are conscious at the time of death, and that's a big if, but if you are conscious at the time of death, and you've got your wits about you enough and enough energy to practice the method, then it's like a space launch. When a rocket goes off, you see these, wherever they launch them from these days. When I was young, it was Cape Canaveral, but now it's all over the world. They've got cheaper places to launch them from, and they franchise the rockets out to other people. So anyway, and you're gone. And where the rocket lands up is in some pure land, some beautifully pure, totally healthy, wonderful state of mind, the heart of Amitabha. So it was very powerful, and he taught that. It was so powerful. Remember, the dogs in Samiling and around started howling when he was doing one part of the practice. You use a seed syllable, and as he did it, our hair was on end because he was there in the shrine room going, hey, like this. And all the dogs started, and you could feel your whole energy being lifted up like this by the power of his mind. So it was very powerful. And we all thought, okay, we do the retreat afterwards, and now we're sorted for death. When the time comes, we'll just sit there and get in the posture and do the practice. And there you are, gone. Great. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. And we'll look at why, because the why it's not that easy is what this course is all about. Okay, you've got the rocket, you've got the fuel, you ignite the fuel, but imagine your rocket is chained down by very, very heavy chains. It can't take off. If we are attached to this life, if we're attached to things, if we're attached to people, if we're attached to ourselves, our own story, who we are physically, who we are mentally, who we are socially, it will make it hard to just transition to a totally pure state. It's not impossible, and maybe with a bit of help from somebody who's got that much spiritual strength, then maybe it can happen, maybe. So what we found in Samiling, me and Akon Rinpoche and the other lamas, over all of these past decades, because members of our community have died and they've tried the different methods, what works? what works best is Atisha's 7-point mind training method of dying. It's so good. And once we go through it, you'll see it makes a lot of sense. It's common sense. That is the best, what do you say, method. The very best, but we can't call that a method, is you live a wonderful life. You do so many good, kind things. You don't hurt anybody. You meditate. You look after your mind. You set your mind free from attachment in this life. Then the huge momentum of day after day, year after year, living harmoniously, living caringly, living in service. This will help you. It makes such wonderful karma, and that will apply at the time of death. That's the very best. We can't call it a method. It's the very best. But of course, if you're old and whiskery like I am, 76 years, I've got at best a couple of years left. So it may not be enough time to make up for all the naughtiness that you've done in this life. So we're looking at powerful methods. Now, none of us knows when we will die or how we will die. We don't know in particular whether we will be conscious or not. And so this course is based on, let's say, ideal circumstances. In my mind, that will be a year. I think if you've got a year to do all the things that will be outlined in this course, you can probably make a good job of it. I've known people who've done this, and it's very good. But if you don't have a year, then you need to kind of shrink this down to a few months or a few weeks and strip it down to the essential points. So we have no choice about when we'll die or physically how we'll die, but we do have choice, some control about our mind, And that's what this course is about. And so it's from 7 points of mind training. Now, there's one thing I need to tell you. It's linguistic, it's technical, but it's very important. You'll find in Tibetan texts, it says, the mind at the moment of death is very important. And you'll see it compared to firing an arrow. So you've got a bow and arrow. I don't know how you do it, never done it, but it's something like that. Okay, so you pull back the string. That's whatever karmic momentum we can create for our mind. But actually, where the arrow's pointed, at the moment you let go, determines where it will end up. So you can pull it back really a long, long way. But if all of a sudden you turn like that, it goes somewhere else with all of that momentum. So there's this kind of analogy. The mind at the moment of death is very important. There's a problem. The problem is translators, people like me, because we translated the word moment. So now we need to go into Abhidharma teachings and explore the word moment, kechik in Tibetan. And it says in the text, moments. There are many. The shortest goes from 1/64th of a finger snap. So divide that time into 64, and that's about as short a moment of consciousness as we humans can experience. When our meditation's good, we really catch the mind instant by instant. That instant is called the shortest moment. The longest moment is the time it takes from when you first give rise to bodhicitta to the time of enlightenment. For instance, Buddha Shakyamuni, 3 cosmic eons. So that's called a moment. A moment in Dharma means the time from beginning to end. So the longest one is from the time of I want to achieve enlightenment, and if we go the slow, long way, I made a new word, slow and long. The slow way, the slow and the long way, then like Buddha, then 3 cosmic eons. It's from the time the idea starts until the time it's accomplished. So here, the mind at the moment of death doesn't mean this, the moment your heart stops, the moment your brainwave stops. It doesn't mean that. It means as we enter this closing, as we're going through this closing passage of our life. I hope it's so far so good. It's very general things so far. And I'm doing it a bit like a news presenter, what they call it, continuity announcer. So the last moment of this life means when we close. So then we come to the next important point. What's a life? What is, and then when we're looking at dying now, what was a life? What's coming to an end? This is very important to understand so that we understand why we're doing what we're about to do. A life is a package of karma. It's a huge package. And now, from my venerable age, looking back, every day was an adventure. I can't do the sums quickly enough in my head, but if you multiply 76 times 365, you've got about 20,000 days, I think, something like that. All different. There were big karmas, things that lasted a long time, like Myron, time with Samiling, time with Katya, big karmas that for a long time. There are shorter karmas, like if you went to university 3 years, maybe 4 years. It was a reality in itself, and then it finished. Childhood, growing up, school, all of it. And in particular, the people we met, the places, so many overlapping karmas, some long, some short, some very short. It's a bundle, a package. The next bundle will be very different. It won't be Hollywood, Ken 2, the return of Ken. And then Ken, that one got good box office. Okay, Ken 3, Ken's back again, this time like this. No way. No way. The way karma works is amazing. It's so hard to understand. I've said it many times because my teachers have told me, but the more I get on in life, the more I see it's true. Supposedly difficult topics like shunyata, voidness, emptiness, they're easy. Karma, to really understand karma, you need to be so pure of heart, so advanced in Dharma knowledge, so advanced in meditation, so that you have what they call the siddhis, clear seeing, clear hearing, clear knowledge that comes through shamatha meditation before you can really understand karma. So this life is a bundle of karma, and it's this story that's coming to its end. It's this story we'll need to let go of in order to die beautifully, successfully, usefully for ourselves and for everybody. This is what we are looking at. And it makes a lot of goddamn sense, because anything else you do in life, that's what you do. If you know you've got a job in Saudi Arabia for 3 years, you go there, you do it, you earn a lot of money, but when the 3 years is coming to an end, you're already planning where you're going next. You're winding down, you're selling your furniture, you sell your car, you move away. If we know we're going to retire from our job, then you plan your retirement, where you're going to live, how you're going to live. It would be stupid not to. And some people don't. They work their butt off, and then all of a sudden that's it. They don't know what to do with themselves, and they get very depressed, very down. They feel no value for themselves because they, keyword coming up. What happened? You identified. Identify, identity, id, it's Latin. Identify. When we identify with our work, our role in a family, whatever it is, when that is me, then that's what can make dying hard. So just like in life with ordinary things that happen, for me, traveling as a Dharma teacher was an amazing experience. I did a lot, too much, not very good carbon footprint, but you kind of fly in, and you're going to fly into Cape Town. You're going to meet all your friends in Cape Town. You're going to talk about whatever they're programmed for you. That's going to be your world for, 2 weeks. And it's really nice. You're going to see old friends and so on. But then, at the end of the 2 weeks, it's bye-bye and a few tears and hugs and cuddles, and then you're in another aeroplane and you're in Italy, and then you plunge into that reality. So we organize ourselves accordingly. That's common sense. It makes a lot of sense. And if we do it well, it's very nice. It makes life better for us and for everybody, the less we are attached. When we cling to the people we love, to our friends and so on, it makes it harder for us, and often it makes it harder for them. When we free our minds, then it makes it better. People become a discovery every day. Now I'm deviating a bit from my task here, but I think it's important. Ringu Toku used to tell a story when he was asked to bless a marriage. And so it's a funny thing when Buddhist teachers are asked to bless a marriage, because Buddha didn't actually go around marrying people very much. It wasn't one of the things he did. On the contrary, people left their relationships to follow the Buddha because he was just too wonderful. You don't get an opportunity like that twice in a lifetime. So anyway, Ringu Toku told the story of a young man, and he had an uncle who was a Lama, very, very good Lama, and he totally devoted to his uncle and loved him very, very much. And the boy was coming up to the sort of age when you find a partner, you get married. And the uncle was on his deathbed, and he said, whatever the guy's name was, said, I want you to promise me something about when you get married. And the boy said, of course, of course. Now, not only did he have a great respect for his uncle, but this is becoming the uncle's dying wish kind of thing. The sort of thing you sign up for that. You've got no choice. So he said, of course, uncle, what is it? He said, I want you to promise me you'll marry a different woman every day. Are you sure? Probably he thought he's losing the plot, Uncle Tashi or whatever it is. He said, no, I want you to promise me. He didn't have much choice, so he promised. Then he fell in love, and then he was in split mind. He wanted to settle down, for a long time. I don't know if they Hollywood Tibet, they thought forever or forever and a day, but for a long time to settle down with somebody. But he promised his uncle. In the end, the power of attraction was too strong, and he thought, I'm going to marry her anyway. Maybe he wasn't quite, all right at the time. But then, when he was getting married, he suddenly understood what his uncle meant. He meant that every day he should take nothing for granted, and he should see his bride, his wife, like a brand new person every day. And that way he'd kind of get married afresh every day. And this is so true. The mind of familiarity, whereby we are asleep, identified with the world we're in, is not helpful for our Dharma practice, and it's certainly the biggest obstacle at the time of death. So if we learn how to let go of the clinging and the identification, meaning you don't need that identity. You don't need it. You have it. That's how people see you. That's your role in the world. You live it like a very skillful dream. That's helpful. But you don't need it. And if it's destroyed, people change, life changes, you lose your job, whatever it is, it's okay because you weren't clinging in the first place. So this is very much what this is about. Life is a package of karma. It's coming to an end. So how to end the story wisely, kindly, kind to yourself, kind to all of those around you, which is maybe today, maybe next Saturday, we're looking at our relationships to family and loved ones. So now, I don't want to be, just see if I've got something actually. Just a second, excuse me. Yeah, good. I need to share a screen. So in your support document, can you put a hand up if you can see? Yeah. You can see? Yeah, good, thank you. In your support document, you've got this kind of octopus thing, right? Now this is Atisha's 7-point mind training. It's a mind map, just so that we can see, that's the wrong one. Oh dear. Never mind, this will do. Okay, so it's in 7 points. They're the blue blobs. This may not be exactly the same as yours because I will have circled something else. So the blue blobs are the 7 key points. They are summed up by maxims that some people call, I don't like it one bit, but some people call them slogans. Maxims, phrases, key phrases. So we have in this version 59 key phrases. What we're looking at in this course is point 4 of the 7, which sums up these 59 areas of guidance into 5 key points. So it says, a lifetime summary is the title. When we go into the details, we see these 5 key points that sum up all of Atisha's mind training. 2 areas in life, and then specifically the same 5 at the time of death. At the time of death, it's the same 5, but in a different order. And as we go through them, I'll make that clear. So in life, it says, Maxim 17, practice these 5 powers. They are the condensed heart instructions of all of this mind training. And then at the time of death, the Mahayana instructions for transference of your consciousness are these 5 powers. The way you do it matters. The way you behave matters. Well, it does. So it's just to show us here where we are in this greater, scheme of Atisha's mind training. Now, while we're on this diagram, if we go to the second of the 7 points, which is about the main meditation practices that back up the 7-point mind training, then point 2, the 2 bodhicittas, we see what we train our mind in is ultimate bodhicitta. This is discovering shunyata, emptiness, and then making that part of our reality. Mainly for us in our Kagyu tradition, it is shunyata as a Buddha nature with all the Buddha qualities, to recognize how really and truly, changelessly, our mind is Buddha, so pure, so peaceful, so kind and loving, so wise, and so on. So that's the ultimate bodhicitta. But then the other area of meditation practice is relative bodhicitta, where we're working with our story. Because although ultimate bodhicitta, our Buddha nature, is the same for all of us, will never change. We're all exactly the same, deep inside. But relatively, we have our story. Most of the Buddha's teaching is about that. It's about karma, impermanence, interdependence, or the long, long story of past lives that made you, you, and that made me, me. And we need to work with that. We can use that as our main raw material for practice. And when we do that, then point 7 of the 59 says, practice sending and taking. These 2 should ride the breath. So we use our breath. And stop the diagram. So we use our breath, and it's a practice called Tonglen. This is central to what we are undertaking here. If you don't know how to do the Tonglen practice, I'll say a few words during this course of a simple way to do it, very, very simple way. But if you'd like a deeper training, then I point you in the direction of courses I've already done online. If you write to me, I can send you the YouTube links, and you can do that or do it live with a good Buddhist teacher who can teach you Tonglen. It really is what will make all the difference for your dying process. Okay, so I think that's all the general things, or maybe one other thing is that when we come to our third session, probably, maybe next week, one of these 5 points at the time of death, for that, we will need to have done some journaling. Excuse me. So rather than introduce it down the line in this course, I'd like to say a few words about it now. And if you've done in Akon Rinpoche's system, in the therapy training he gave back to beginnings, then you will be very well equipped for this. It's almost like it. I remember doing this journaling practice in the 1970s before Tara therapy started. So there it was introduced to us, given to us as a practice from the Nyingma tradition, something that Akon Rinpoche had learned from his Nyingma lineage. And so what we will be doing is recalling our life, writing it down. We start from now and we work backwards to our earliest memories, or the earliest memory. And we'll be writing it down. And then we're going to work backwards, back up from the earliest memory to the present day. When we do that, we'll be reliving our story that we've brought back to mind through the first journaling, going from now back to earliest memories. We'll be going through that and doing various things like asking in our mind for forgiveness from the people we've hurt. We will be forgiving those who've hurt us. We will be appreciating and developing gratitude for those who've helped us. We'll come to this when the time is there. So you may want to start now experimenting with it. But if you have the ideal year, then you will give yourself good time, because this will be very, very helpful. Give yourself months to go back to the beginning, and give yourself months to work the other way. If you do it on screen on a computer, that's great, because you can make space. If you do it on paper, leave a lot of space, because you'll want to add things. And then when you come in the journey from early to now, you will want to add more things. We start with now. Now what we're writing down is not for anybody else's eyes. You're not writing your story to tell anybody. It's not like my diary. And, yesterday I went here, I did that. This is not of interest. Even if it's in your CV, quite big things. What's important is what was important for you. What impacted you? What changed you as a human being? What influenced the course of your life? Changed your direction? Whether it was helpful, painful, and sometimes. I met a guy in a park in Istanbul on my way to India in 1970. He said one word to me and then walked off. But that moment, it was curious. That one word worked in my mind. all the way on from Istanbul to India. And when I got back in the end to Istanbul, I thought he was right. He was right. So if you wrote it down as a story, it's not very much. One person comes up, looks at you, says one word and walks off. It's not like I went to university and got a BSc or something like that. But maybe you just went to university and got a BSc and it didn't really impact you very much at all. Gave you job qualifications. Maybe the person you had an affair with while you were at university, maybe that impacted you and changed your life a lot more. This sort of thing is for nobody else. We want to understand how we ended up how you are. So when you write back, depending on your time, so let's say you do have the time, let's say you've got 4 months to work back to your earliest memory. Okay, you do the sums. It won't work out exactly, but you've got this quarter of your life, the quarter before that, each month. You start from now, and so you're going back, you know how much time you've got to go through the last months or the last year. And what you'll find is that one memory teases out, pulls out another one. And you'll remember things that you've completely gone from your mind. And at first, if you think about, like if I said, August 1998, how on earth can I remember August 1998, without going back and looking in the diary, or if you got one. But if you start from now, and you go back, and we're not looking at writing, a story from the outside, a full story, but the life influencing events. Once you've gone to this previous one, then but you start to remember before that, and then there was him or her, I went there. And it pulls out more and more. So we go back gradually, and some areas will be quite dense and intense, others less, but we try and spread it out. And we journal. We're looking for what influenced us, changed us. We're looking at where love came in, where spiritual awakening came in, the kind of positive, helpful, warm, joyous things of life. But we're also looking at hurt and harm, very important, and being very honest about mistakes. So when you come back, you need to, how can you say, drop the official story you've been telling yourself and that you've told other people, and just be honest. It's just between you and you, or maybe between you and Buddha. What really went on there? And were you as good as you thought you were? Or maybe the other way around, were you really as bad as you thought you were, given the circumstances? We just try and be honest. Try and look at ourselves through Buddha's eyes. What really went on there? Ken? Buddha saw. So we try that. We're journaling, going back. And then we'll work back through that. So you can start playing with that process, thinking about it from today onward. So now I have to get on with going through the details. 5 key points in life. And we're going to start with what in life is point number 3. And it's called sowing positive seeds. This is about what can we do now that's going to really and truly influence our future our immediate future from now until death itself, but more than anything, our next life and the life afterwards. Like sowing a seed that will bear beautiful fruit once it's grown into a tree. But if there's no seed planted, then there's no tree that's ever going to grow. So here we have a simple external meaning, and we have the real meaning, the deeper meaning, that we're going to explore in quite some detail. The key word here is dana in Sanskrit. For those of you who did training earlier this year, the paramita of generosity, dana is the word from which we get our English words like donation, or in French, don. So it means giving. And we're going to look at giving. And the main point of giving, as we saw in the paramita, is giving up, letting go. That's why we give. We don't give to boost our ego. I gave, with a big badge. That's not the point of Buddhist giving. We give because there is a need, and because it's good to share, and so on. But the main, deeper reason we give is so that we overcome our clinging. So there is an external aspect, simple aspect, and a deeper meaning. The external aspect is you're going to die. So we need to let go. Actually, we'll look at this letting go in 3 areas. Letting go of stuff, letting go of people, letting go of you. Okay, we start with the easy one, which is stuff, because that's very straightforward to understand. And then we move on to loved ones, people, family. And then the most subtle one is letting go of the story of you in this life, because like it or not, it's over. It's coming to an end. This story and all the identification and everything that came from that identification, it's coming to an end. You have no choice. You have no choice. And it will happen very quickly, going into what they call the bardo, between lives. It sounds so cruel. You forget everybody. They'll be gone. And we have a wonderful example, which is sleep. When you go to sleep at night and you dream, you've forgotten who you were. You can be a horse in the dream. You could be going around like this. As far as you're concerned, you're a horse. Grass is very important, and other horses. And sometimes if suddenly you get woken up from the dream and you realize you're Ken Holmes in an armchair who's dozed off, it can be quite a surprise. It takes those few seconds to think, which planet am I on? What am I? Old, young, man, woman? And then you kind of reintegrate with who you are. But that's not the point. When you fall asleep, your waking life's gone. Okay, when you're alive, you wake up again and you pick up the story. But this is what we're talking about when we study the bardos, the 6 bardos, the 6 major different states of consciousness we can experience. They're different quantum differences of the quality of consciousness What we have now is waking state, sleeping state. If you're lucky and you do deep meditation, we have shunyata state as well. But we see that from waking state to dream state, you forget, you're gone. So when you die, you don't wake up again. You don't pick up the threads of this life again. It's finished. So this is going to happen, like it or not. The question is, can you just move on and let go like that? Or will something in that vital time, as this life is coming to an end, will you be attached and clinging, and that will make you confused and sad and regretful and will chain you down? This is where we have room for maneuver. So we have to let go. And so it's sowing the positive seeds. Now, the external aspect is that you give away stuff. So the external aspect is you make good karma by using your wealth to good ends. So in Tibet, sort of rule of thumb would be you divide your property into 3. You give a third for all the death procedures. I mean, it depends how rich you are, but usually people would like to invite a lot of monks, lamas, a big Buddhist band, with all that and all that kind of thing, make a lot of noise, and have something that lasted a long time, and then you make food for everybody, people in the village. So a third of your money goes for a good send-off, right? On every level. You may or may not be there to enjoy it, but that's where a third of your money goes, and in particular in like offerings to particular people who look after all of that. Another third goes to what we call the 3 jewels, to supporting lamas, to making things for the monastery, statues, tsatsa images, and so on. It's a gift to the monastery. And then the other third goes to your family. So you sort that out. These days, it means perhaps making a will, or even better, you get rid of it before you're dead. Of course, you need to think about that these days. It costs money to be in care, to be looked after. And unless you've got a very, very clear idea of how many weeks you've got left, you do need to budget for yourself, your own care, of course. But for instance, my mother-in-law, she made a point 2 years before she died. She left enough so that she was okay, but she gave nearly everything to her children, and that was done. Now, this is the first obvious step. It's the thing we do first. We want to get it done, and we want to give ourselves time, a fixed time, and after that time, your poor head, your poor thoughts, your poor emotions are not going there anymore. Stuff, money, you're going to sort it out, and then by the 21st of November or whatever date you fix, after that date, it's somebody else's business. So you do all the worry and the stress now. So say you've got 3 children, and if you've got 3 children, they're probably not all treated you the same. So then you've got all these problems. Okay. If I split it up evenly, 1/3 each, that's not fair to Doris, because Doris has really looked after me. But it will stop the others from complaining and giving Doris a bad time. If I give Doris what she really deserves, which is more than half of it, and then split the other half between the other two, that's fair because she's been so kind to me and this and that. But then the others are going to get upset. I'll be gone. There'll be her and her two brothers. And so all this kind of thing, whatever your own situation, or they've all been good. I love all my three children, but I've spent all my life looking after my garden so beautifully. And two of them aren't good at gardens. They'll destroy it if they. So I want to give the house to this one because he's really good. All this kind of thing because we're involved with our feeling of responsibility to the children, our lifelong association with them, love of them, and this and that, and the property and the garden, and the Chinaware dinner service from Aunt Matilda. Who's going to have that? You can't split it up between three people. All this kind of thing. Involved. It's got to be sorted. So you give yourself a time, and this is going to be so important in this today and next week, you do your best. You do your best. It won't be perfect. It never is. But you do your best and you tell yourself, I'm doing my best. And when it's done, you say, I did my best. And maybe even you tell your children, I did my best. But for yourself in here, finished with the stuff, you let go of it. And in terms of meditation and mind work, every time after your fixed date, when your mind starts going back to Aunt Matilda's dinner service, you stop it. That's finished. It's not your business anymore. It's stuff. It will go to other people. That's what happens with stuff. It becomes somebody else's stuff. And feel happy. It says in Gampopa's teachings on generosity, generosity is so wonderful because when you give something away, you give away all the worries you had of looking after it, maintaining it, ensuring it, wondering what's become of it. Woohoo! Whee! You give it away. It's gone. It's not your business anymore. You did your best, and whether your kids like it or not, whether the taxman likes it, whatever, it's not your business. But we need to do that. Okay, nobody will do it perfectly, but you give yourself a date, then afterwards your training is to just not let your mind go there. Every time you see your mind wandering there. So shamatha training, of course, helps us bring our mind back where we want it. We see the wandering mind getting involved with stuff and we bring it back and we say, you don't go there. But this is important. It's not rocket science. You need to go through your stuff. You need to think it through. Like a wise person, you need to think through what can go wrong. What arguments can this cause? All of that, you do your best. Ideally, if you've got children, if it's inheritance, you let them know what you're doing. And you say, no, sorry, it's the best I can do. It's what I want to do. Talk with them. But and it could be helpful to say, I'm not going to be around very long. I can't afford to have my mind preoccupied with this. Please understand, I'm doing my best. Forgive me if it offends you, but I'm doing my best. So I think you've got the idea. Practically, this may not be easy, but it is our first, how can you say, letting go training to do with stuff. It's really just stuff. Like, you remember the house you lived in 3 lifetimes ago? No, you don't, do you? All the years of hard work you put into that. Did it have a garden? You can't even bloody well remember if it had a garden or not. But all the worry, all the maintenance, and how many children did you have to give it to share it with? Stuff just goes. Your beautiful mind, your heart that's going to become Buddha. Don't let it get lost in stuff. Get rid of it. Keep what you need, but we get rid of it. And we get rid of it from in here. We have much more important work to do. And you see people sometimes when they die, or in their last lucid moments, they're so concerned about stuff. They're reaching out for stuff. Their last words are about what's going to happen to this. That's sad. That's sad. So the first thing we need to do is to make a will, or to get rid of stuff even while we're alive. Now, in particular, stuff that you are most attached to is the stuff we need to get rid of most urgently. So if you've got like I've got something, I don't know if you can see it, I've got a very beautiful ring that came from Uncle Arthur. Uncle Arthur was a villain. He was a black sheep of a family who wandered off to Hong Kong and played piano bar. And this is a ring made in Asia that's got beautiful raw sapphires in it. It's going to have to go. I'm not quite sure who that's going to go to, but I think it's one of the things I like, let's say I like the most. And then Dharma objects. Sometimes we have some quite precious relics. I've got bits of Karmapas. I've got a bit of Gampopa's robe. These need to go to the right places. And I need to sort that out while I've still got something working up here. And then to give them away, be happy they're gone and that they're bringing blessing and niceness to somebody else. So we need to let go of stuff. So that's going to become the main point for today. So stuff. But then now for homework, the next thing we're letting go of is our human relationships with those, of course, who are still alive. And so we need to think very personally, because only you know who you have as close people, or not just humans, animals as well. And humans mainly, we need to work out the words in which we can love them even more by letting go of them. We want to give them a gift. We want to give them the gift of seeing somebody die well. Because there's no greater gift you can give to your children or your loved ones than that you go in peace. Peace is very, very important in Dharma. Peace is not some kind of cosmic sleeping tablet. Ah, peace. Flat line mind. You're at peace with yourself. You're at peace with everybody. You're at peace with life. We're not like that now. Just look on Facebook. People are not at peace with life, with politics, with all that's going on. People are not at peace with each other. They're not at peace with themselves. If you can die, and it's so gentle and peaceful a transition, people will remember that. It will be a guiding light for them. And it will be a wonderful thing for you too. So we need to have conversations with our loved ones and hold their hands and be sweet, kind. Tell them I won't be around very, very long. It's important for me because I'm leaving all of this. And as much as I love you, my mind needs to be free to move on to whatever comes after death. And so whatever words will be helpful for the other person. They may not be Buddhist, they may be whatever they are. We need to find ways to put it kindly and carefully. What you're trying to achieve, and this may be interesting and curiously interesting if we're doing this training while we're still quite alive. We're rehearsing, and we come back and rehearse in another couple of years' time, and another couple of years' time, and then the real thing happens and you're dying. You want to see your loved ones like strangers. It's like the story of marry a different woman every day. The need, the clinging is gone. And sometimes, when this happens nicely around the time of death, then people who've known each other, family or so on, for years, can actually discover each other, see each other through clean eyes with the veils gone, because you let go. This is a wonderful gift for other people and for yourself. So the homework between now and next week is for you to think of your loved ones and close ones, the people in your life just now, and that if you are dying, you suddenly learn that you've got another couple of months. How are you going to do this? And as you do it in the homework, then explore your own feelings inside. Discover what clinging is, what need is. Discover what your identity is. I should have said that about the objects before, because the objects is the mundro, is the preliminary training for letting go of the people, right? Like if you identify as, I'm the man with the BMW Series 13. I don't think Series 13 exists, but it would be top of the range if it did, right? And so when you're sitting, people are looking at it because it's the BMW Series 13, and you identify with it, or the man with the snake ring, or whatever it is. We need to explore that stuff. So now with people, you've always been mum, or you've always been dad, or you've always been big brother or little brother in the family. Okay, so that's the end of the formal part of our session this morning. We'll do a dedication prayer, and then we've got 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. If there is something you'd like to add in the discussion, or questions you'd like to ask, if I've got answers. So when we dedicate whatever was good and useful, meaningful in this session, whatever was virtuous, then we let go completely. We don't own it anymore. We give it to everyone. We hope it will benefit. And in particular, right now, thousands of people are dying. And we would think, if only some of this ancient wisdom could radiate from what we've done here today and bring comfort, bring peace to those who are dying just now. May whatever virtue was created by this session contribute to the state of omniscience being attained. Through the main enemy, our mind's defilements being completely defeated. Through that, may each and every sentient being become freed from the ocean of existence, troubled by the waves of rebirth, aging, sickness, and death. May this precious bodhicitta arise in those in whom it's not arisen. May its development know no setbacks, and may it increase ever more and more. Through this virtue, may we quickly achieve Mahamudra and establish every single sentient being in that same accomplishment. So thank you very, very much. And now it's over to you.
Hi, Ken. I have some comments about wills and stuff.
Yes.
And also a question about power, but I'll leave the question and unless nobody else has any questions or after they've asked. About wills, first of all, I would say to somebody who hasn't made a will, A, make it, and B, do get the advice of a good solicitor. Because there's various things, but it's also after that, it's once you know the format and have the format, it's relatively easy to change with changing circumstances. For example, you were talking about houses. I have 4 children, all adults now. I've made 3 or 4 wills because I change it from time to time. I mean, and just briefly, initially, my house was my main asset, and I left it equally to all 4 of them. But as each of them or some of them have bought their own houses, I've changed it accordingly. So it doesn't upset your mind. It's quite easy to do if you change it every 3 or 4 years or as major circumstances change. As regards stuff, you mentioned about getting rid of stuff that's you're most attached to. I would also add, get rid of stuff that is rubbish. I mean, I have loads of stuff around which I really should have got rid of, and not let loved ones have to deal with it. And I know you've said that you've got several sheds that are full of rubbish. So I think that's something that both of us should do.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
But there's an important piece. I'm in Ireland, so this relates to Irish law, but it may well relate to the laws in the countries where other people are listening in from. If you leave something in your will to something that you're sort of precious to you, I'll just give an example. If you have a Buddha Rupa, to every person that I'm leaving stuff to, I've left a Buddha Rupa or picture and a book of Dharma or whatever. But the lawyer said to me, he said, if you just, which originally I had, if you leave them in your will to, I leave Buddha Rupa X to Y, He said the revenue, that's the tax people in Ireland, the revenue commissioners, when they get the probate or whatever, they don't know the value of that rupa. It could be 20 euro, it could be 20,000 euro or 200,000 euro. So they will ask for a valuation. And my solicitor said to me, if it's not that expensive for rupa, the cost of the valuation will far exceed the value of the rupa. And if you've left 10 things, it says you'll wipe out all the money on nothing. So what we've done is you make the will, but you also write a letter specifying stuff that you have already bequeathed in your life, and you mention those in the will, if you see what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. So your ring, for example, I don't know how much it's physically worth or financially worth, but you can, in a separate letter, you can leave it to whoever you want to leave it to, and you can tell them about it or not, but you've already bequeathed it. It's theirs, but you still have it until you die.
Yeah.
So that's a very important point the solicitor made. I hope that's clear. So, okay, so I have a question about Pora, but I'll let other people ask questions or say things.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Hi, Ken.
Oh.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, yeah.
It's interesting that you started the course on this day. This is the 17th anniversary of my son's passing. He went very, very quick. It was a motorbike accident, but I was left with his house and all the contents, you know.
Mm.
And I was sitting in the house wondering, you know, what do I do with all these stuff, you know? And yeah, I was so. And this, I think forget the man that came. I think the man that came was the valuer for the house, you know. Because we were selling the house, and he said, "Oh, there's a lot of nice stuff here." He says, "There's a lot of," he says all this hi-fi equipment and things. He says it's really good quality stuff and things. I says, "Yeah, it is." I says, "It really is," and that's what my son was into. And the man says, and he knew my son had passed. He said, "You mind if I just maybe give you a bit of advice?" He says, "No." And he said, "All this stuff, the hi-fi equipment," he says, "take it to a buyer and just take whatever it gives you." It doesn't matter. Just say, "Take this stuff away." He says, you know, you have to, you know what I mean?
There's lots of things to think about practically, like what you've said, Charlie and Neil. And this is the point. We need to get informed. We need to get into whatever information is needed in our own case, and then have conversations as well. For instance, I've known people, if you are quite ailing, if you're not very well, then sometimes the children say, the children will say, "For goodness sake, don't worry about that. We'll look after it. We're more than happy that you stop thinking about all the stuff you've got in the garage and don't feel I've got to sort this out before I go, because it's a burden." Or it might be the opposite. They might say, "Dad, you've got so much junk. I don't want to know about it, but I'm going to be very embarrassed." So then, even if necessary, or whatever, that's up to you to decide. But you have these people who just come and they'll get rid of everything. They come with a skip, or they come and they know where to sell the the metal, they know where to sell this, they make a little bit of money out of it. What's important for us is to let go of that stuff, go beyond it. So it's a very practical thing. I think what you've said and what you've said, it shows these laborious facts of life we need to deal with. Okay, it's a nuisance, it's work, but it's quite tangible. And it's a bit different from the next step, which is letting go of our relationships with people. And I saw in the chat, there's a question come through about letting go of everything. Does this mean also letting go of our identity as a Buddhist? And no, that's something different. I think our training in Dharma should tell us just what we're doing. Like we've seen in my courses this year, quite what becoming a bodhisattva means. And we are not letting go of that. On the contrary, when we come to the last half of this training, I don't know about in terms of time, but first half is letting go. And the next half is preparing for the future that's to come, where we're going, preparing for death, preparing for in-between death experiences, preparing for the next life. Just like if you're leaving a country, you're moving from one country to another, you need to prepare it. So we need to do that. So our future bodhisattva journey, our future Buddhist journey is very, very important. And or during our life, as Buddhists anyway, but in this training of preparing for death. I'm afraid I've got a very military image in my mind. I call it lobbing time grenades. You know, in movies you see people who they sometimes pull off the pin of a grenade and throw it. It's like lobbing something throwing something into your next life. You make such a strong intention, dedication, that despite all the chaos of being reborn, growing up and something, it will come and find you, like it found us in this life. Dharma will come and fish you out of your worldly existence, and it will reconnect you with those who can help you, refuges. So this is very, very important, our ongoing identity as a Buddha, and it's okay to have an identity as a Bodhisattva. They're all doing it. Chinrezig will be Chinrezig until Chinrezig's Buddha, and he won't be Manjushri, and he won't be Maitreya. And in some of the sutras, which are a bit, well, how can you say? Nice stories, let's say nice stories. Then you see, for instance, Maitreya saying to Manjushri, I was a bit lazier than you were. That's why you've got such and such capacities of brilliant knowledge in certain areas, and so on. So our identity, not a nasty, egotistic, me identity, but identifying with the ongoing bodhisattva we are and we will be in the next life and the life after that, more and more and more. We are not letting go of that. It's a brief answer to this question. It's a wonderful question about balancing ultimate reality and relative reality. On our bodhisattva journey, then we have what was called the two truths. Every moment we can never do enough to wake ourselves up to our Buddha mind. It's here every moment, all the time. But at the same time, we have to deal with our karma, our relative journey, and so we can nurture the dreamlike bodhisattva that we are, and that's what all of this is going to be about when we get through all five points.
Ken, could I just share a little how my wife went, you know, as she was Buddhist. And you know, when it came out that, you know, that she was literally dying, and I says, "What?" I asked her, "What do you think's going on?" She says, "I'm on my way out." And she told total acceptance of that. I said, are you afraid? She says, "No," you know. And she never concerned herself about stuff. The only thing was, like, she had prepared all her clothes to be dressed in when she passed. That was the only thing. And she never concerned herself about what was going to happen to this or that. And I must say that she went very peacefully. She actually shared with us, like, sometimes when she was lying there in the hospice, that teachers, you know, lamas and things that she'd met all came swirling round, and when she was, well, she was experiencing this, you know, and she was perfectly okay, and she did go peacefully.
How wonderful, Charlie! How wonderful!
Yeah, and that was, that was so a privilege and to witness that. I feel like witness that, to say, well, it's true, you know, because, you know, what you're saying here it's true. It's important how we go, you know.
It's a wonderful gift. It's one of the biggest gifts we could ever give to people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks so much for sharing that.
It'd be wonderful to ask a question if I don't know if you can. Can you see me okay? I can't actually see the screen.
Yeah, Nicola. Hello. Hello.
That's okay. I just wondered if you can see. So I have a couple of very quick questions, I think. The first is, I've done the Back to Beginnings Tara Rockpa process all the way through. So is it helpful still to do that again? To start from now as opposed to when I did it? Should I start from now and go back to the point where I stopped before? That's one, or should I just go back again in case I missed anything? And the second very quick question is that I'm training to be, as a result of that, I'm training to be a death doula.
Yeah.
To be more practical with my practice, to be honest. So I've come across sometimes in the training that people like to, some people, there's a sense of letting go and wanting to kind of move, particularly if you know you're going to die. There's a sense of getting things in order, and a death doula helps with that order, whether that's physically moving, doing cleaning or just like sorting things out, writing letters for people, all this kind of thing. But also there's also a kind of sense that people want to know that they existed, and I have a real dilemma with that, and from this point of view, because I'd want to help people and be open to what their beliefs are, but some have this idea that they want to know that they made an impact in the world, that kind of, like, they existed, they want to do something that showed that they were here. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't know how to deal with that to help others. If I'm really just a friend, I'm not doing anything special, but that I can be of help at that point, because I don't understand myself.
I think for the first question, for the journaling, we'll be coming to that, and the reason for doing it, probably in the third session. So I think wait till you've gone through that, and then you can assess for yourself whether what you've done is enough, or whether you just like to go through it quickly, revising it from a different, maybe slightly different perspective. For your second question, what we're training in here mainly is what to do for ourselves. Primarily, it's a Buddhist training course. It's a Mahayana Bodhisattva training course based on Atisha, but I'm hoping there will be some things useful for anybody. But when it comes to helping other people, then from everything I heard from Akon Rinpoche, the main thing is for them to be as happy and as peaceful as they can. And because they've not got the same commitment that we have as bodhisattvas. They've not got the same vision of this is where I'm going over many lifetimes and so on. And it's very important for them to die as, if we use negatives, as undisturbed as possible. If we use positives, then as peaceful as possible. So if it means a lot to them to feel that they were useful in life, then I'm sure he would have recommended, then if we can find a way to do that, then that will be helpful. And yeah. And there's a lot of thinking about how these mind training teachings can be adapted, for instance, for Christians, because there's so much the same and there's so much not the same. We share the idea that when you die, your mind doesn't stop, your experience continues, that your experience continues in terms of what you did in this life. So that, Christian, if they led a good life, they go to, there's heaven, hell, purgatory, all of that. Although the history of all those Christian beliefs is quite interesting, let's say, over the centuries. But nevertheless, there's a common idea that consciousness doesn't stop and that we can do something when we're alive to make the after-death journey better. So if we know somebody is Christian, then there's maybe no point talking about rebirth, but making them feel more in harmony with themselves, at peace with themselves in Christian terms, I think would be very, very helpful. For instance, one elderly person that I had conversations with was very Christian all her life. And she always said, oh, it's really great. I'll at last go and meet Jesus, which is kind of good news because you can only believe in Jesus while you're alive. But once you're gone, you can actually go and get the real deal. But then when the last months actually came, and I repeated her own words back to her as a comfort, she just looked at me and I don't believe that anymore. Couldn't feel it anymore. So then we had some very interesting conversations. But I saw my job as helping her to re-establish her Christian faith in a deeper way, not in so much the external way that she'd heard it from the church. But I didn't pounce on it as a Buddhist and think, oh, now she's ready to believe in reincarnation and I can talk about future lives. And it was helpful. It was helpful.
If no one else has a question, I'll ask my question about power.
Yep. Okay, Neil.
Okay. Well, I studied power under Lama and I did practice for quite a while, but not recently. I suppose for two main reasons. One is I'm lazy, and B, perhaps more, is I began to wonder about its value along the lines of what you were talking about. I began to wonder what is the likelihood of when my time comes, will I be in a state in which poor practice will be useful or even possible? So my question is, if Akon Rinpoche invited Kalu Rinpoche to give poor instruction back in the 70s, did he change his mind about its value and develop this sort of course that you're doing now? Or what was his view of Poa in more recent years?
I don't think it diminished the value of it, but I think as the decades went by, we saw the how can you say, the reality of our situation, mainly our situations here, mainly in the West, and that there was much less likelihood of that being beneficial to people than, for instance, this 7-point mind training. One is that so many people are not conscious at the time of death. You're medicated, or your mind's wandering, rambling, you're not clear. Even the actual energy it takes to project your consciousness out of your body, it takes energy, and sometimes it can be so tired, so exhausted, that you just can't manage it. And then you could get in a bit of a tizzy, because it's like trying to lift a rock and you're not strong enough to lift it. And you think, well, this is I'm losing my chance to be reborn in Dewa Chen, as is phrased. And then another thing is that for Tibetans, the presence of Buddha Amitabha and Dewa Chen is so real, it's so ingrained in the culture, and a place you just long to go and be happy to go. And I think it takes a very well-trained Western Buddhist to really believe when everything else has gone and the chips are down, that that's really there as a possibility, and to feel Amitabha, like the way if you loved your mother, you might want to really go back into your mother's arms, for a bit of comfort. That's what it would be like to go to Amitabha, the source, the root of everything, all the kindness of your guru, most beautiful love in the whole universe, incarnate, that kind of feeling. So there are many reasons why leaving it to the last moment for a conscious transference to the heart of Amitabha might not work for everybody. But if somebody is conscious and they know that practice, then it's so clear cut. Bye-bye, it's like take off in a rocket. Bye-bye world, here we go. And it's where you're going is so happy. So happy, you wouldn't want anything else. And you know that from Dewa Chen, you can help all the people you're connected with in a much better way than if you were actually physically reborn in a body. But most people won't have that opportunity, I think, in practice. But if you can do it, and then maybe we'll save this for another later session, because there are ways of combining Mahamudra and Poa at the time of death. There are ways that Poa is not the only recourse. So you're shaping your mind in one way, and then if it's possible that you have the lucid opportunity to do a transfer, just leave through Poa practice, then you do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's been a long session. Thank you all very much, and see you next week. And wish you all the very, very best. We did the dedication. So hello and goodbye to those I didn't say hello and goodbye to at the beginning. Bye-bye now.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.